So the minute and a half we just saw is a little bit about my son Avraham David, who was murdered at the age of 16, 9 years ago, along with 7 other young men. About
Can you speak right into the mic?
yeah, about a 15-minute walk from here in downtown Jerusalem. As people may or may not know, there's usually a traditional 7-day mourning period the Jews observe. We stay in our houses and people come to visit. At the end of this period, I was asked by one of the Israeli television stations, wanted to interview me, and one of the first questions they asked me was whether I was angry. And it struck me as an odd question because the pain of loss was of such a degree that it far overshadowed any emotion of anger that I may or may not have had. It didn't even occur to me at the time to be angry at anybody. I said this horrific evil that took my firstborn son from my life and from this world, it was just so far beyond something that could be dealt with by being angry. So in a sense, maybe that's part of mechila, part of forgiveness, has to do with recognizing the limits of emotion, the limits of what we can do with what may be normal emotive response to horrific events. And trying to move beyond that. I want to share a story about my son that also happened not far from here. People know that the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, of Tabernacles, ends with a very joyous festival by the name of Simchat Torah, in which we celebrate finishing reading the 5 books of Moses. And it's a holiday which is celebrated with exuberance and with dancing throughout the day, dancing with the Torah scrolls in the synagogue. My family used to come visit Israel. They lived in America, and only myself out of my immediate family has moved to Israel. So over the years, my family would come visit, and we would wind up spending this holiday together not far from here, and we would go to a synagogue overlooking the old city walls. It's a synagogue in a community by the name of Yamin Moshe, which was one of the first communities established outside of the old city. If not, I think it's the first, as a matter of fact, the first community established outside of the old city walls for Jews over 150 years ago. And my son used to read from the Torah. And if people have ever seen what an actual Sefer Torah scroll looks like inside, there's no vowels there. And to be able to read from the Torah, it's quite a skill. It's something that has to be learned. It's not something just like reading the newspaper. But my son was a very accomplished reader, and during the holiday, in addition to dancing, he would read from the Torah. And I vividly recall my father, who escaped from Germany as a young boy in 1938 to America. I remember him reading together with my son, his first grandson, overlooking the old city walls. And I remember how happy that made him this kind of juxtaposition of all these pieces of grandfather from Europe via America coming back to Jerusalem together with his grandson. And it reminded me, and I'll just, with your indulgence, read, there's a piece of the Mishnah, which is a compilation of Jewish law, that describes the end of this holiday of Sukkot as it was celebrated in the time when the temple was still standing. And it says that even though the day of worship in the temple starts at sunrise, the holidays would be held at night in the temple courtyard. And it says that Hasidim, the righteous, and Anshe Ma'aseh, those people of value, would dance holding torches all through the night. He goes on to describe how they would dance ecstatically and how the Levi'im would sing and how they would proceed up the 15 steps that lead, which we can still see on the southern end of the Western Wall. You can still see these steps. And it goes into great detail describing the festive nature of this holiday. It happened at night. And it ends, this Mishnah ends by describing that when they heard the rooster crow and saw that dawn was approaching, they proceeded to bring certain sacrifices. But what's important about this Mishnah is that even though it was the dead of night, they didn't wait for the sun to rise. Rather, they lit torches by themselves and they made light for themselves. In the midst of the darkness, they decided to do something. Hasidim v'anshe ma'aseh, the righteous and those who have deeds in their hands, anshe ma'aseh. And the deeds they have in their hands is a willingness to move forward, to light a torch despite being surrounded by darkness. So my wish for you in this conference and in memory of my murdered son is that all of us can face in the darkness with the ability to light a torch and to see our way forward. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Amen. Yesterday we were challenged to get off our high horses of academia and to look at reality. And I'm just so honoured and grateful that Naftali is able to share with us his reality, which includes a reality of forgiveness, of lighting torches.